Let me start with some background. My wife and I are both 54, MF, married 31 years. She is an RN at a hospital. I work for a home builder since I was 18. We have 2 children, both grown out of the house, in their 20s. We decided in our mid-40s to pursue my wife's dream of running a bed and breakfast. We have been looking on and off for years. We came across a piece of property of 5 acres and a home built in the 1870s. The original owners were large landowners in this area. They had an extensive agricultural business empire. Over the decades, fewer of the family wanted to stay in farming. Parcels of land were sold off. Our town is going through growing spurts, as it has become quite touristy because of some, let's say, natural formations and beauty. The farmland along the main highways is being gobbled up. The house and land we purchased is away from the highways. Since we bought it, my wife and I are redoing the entire house. There has been neglect in some basic maintenance, and we wanted to restore the house to its prominence 150 years ago, along with making a living. My wife has been in charge of decorating rooms as I finish, along with paying the mortgage. I am renovating room by room, paying for all material and any professional help if needed. I am pretty handy, so most work is done by me. The last few years, the housing industry has gone through the roof. We would work 8 days a week if we could. I was pulling in big money until last year. The pandemic knocked us out of work for a while in 2020, then the material shortages started. Of course, my wife was on the front lines for the last 18 months. Last year, she worked weeks at the hospital without days off. The medical staff stayed at the hospital. They had rooms several slept in together. To say the least, the staff got very close. They worked 4 weeks on 2 weeks off, starting in March last year into the fall, then again after Thanksgiving. My wife has always, after the kids were older, worked for others if they asked. She watched these young parents crying because they could not see their families. So, on their off times, she would give up her time off and offer it to the staff that really needed it. There were others that did this too. The whole COVID experience changed her. Watching people put on ventilators, the deaths, etc. She was not the same person. She was distant. Our sex life went to zero. I attributed it to either her experiences or her age. I tried talking about it but was told she just didn't feel it anymore. We still worked closely on the house. We planned trips to an area in our state that had a large Amish population. The Amish here are known for the craftsmanship in woodworking and sewing. We bought several pieces of furniture for the bedrooms along with handmade quilts. This past weekend, we were planning on taking a 3-day trip to this area to buy dining room furniture. I also pay and trade with some wood that I get when I take down an old barn, which I do as a side gig. Barnwood is very much in demand. My boss calls me and tells me everyone is working the whole week, as he was able to get wooden shingles for a house we have been sitting on, waiting for supplies. I told the wife we could go on Saturday and Sunday. On Friday morning, she tells me she is still going with some workers because there is a fall festival going on too. I go to a local bar that night. One of her co-workers comes up to say hello. I ask if she was going on the trip. She knew nothing about it. So I texted the wife asking if she made it okay and asked who was all there with her. She texted back that this friend, her other close friend, and a friend called Stevie. I had heard this name the last few months. Until then, I always thought they was female. I asked her friend at the bar if she knew this Stevie. She said no, but there is a Steven that works with them. Do the wife gets back Sunday afternoon? She has bags of tablecloths, napkins, kitchen towels, etc. She is showing me what she bought. In one bag there was a smaller bag. She pulled it out, looked in it, and said, "Oh, not this bag, it's not for us." I let it go. Later I looked in the bag. She had hidden it in a closet. It was decorations for a man cave for a college team I don't follow in sports, so it wasn't for me. I asked to talk with her. I asked again who all went. She gave the same 3 people. I just asked who Stevie was because we had not met. She told me a woman they work with. I pulled out the man cave stuff and told her I talked to her friend, who was supposed to be away last weekend, but her plans blew up. Then I asked who Stevie was again. She started crying and told me who he was, and yes, they were by themselves. They had sex. They have been since last year during their hospital lockdown. So now she is living in one of the finished bedrooms. I have our bedroom. I will talk to a lawyer on Monday. I have no idea what to do about the house, the business, the marriage. To me, she was sorry she was caught, but not for the affair. I asked her if she would break it off with Stevie. She was not sure. Update. It's been a hectic couple weeks. Along with my work and side gigs picking up, the wife and I were battling. I saw a lawyer. After I explained everything, he suggested we try to work it out before he gets involved. The house is still not a business and cannot be sold as such. We would have to sell it as a house, unfinished, which would lower the price. We have sunk well over $100,000 into the house plus the mortgage. The lawyer will have to consult with a real estate attorney and maybe one dealing with businesses, so their fees are going to be high. So I try to approach the wife to see if we could talk. I don't know if she is embarrassed being caught, but she has dug in her heels. She told me to leave the house. I told her I have no plans to do that. Then she countered with my giving up the master suite and me moving to one of the bedrooms. I again tell her I don't plan on it either. She then says she is off the next couple days and will move all my stuff out and put it in the foyer for me to decide where I am going to stay. So I end the conversation. I went out where my supplies are stored and grabbed a new door lock with the push-button keypad. I was going to install on the bedroom doors once we had guests. We can change the combination after each guest. I installed it on the master suite door. The next day I went to work. When I came home after a day of angry messages for putting the lock on, she was livid. "How dare you lock me out of my bedroom," was her war cry. After back and forth, I asked if we could please talk. She finally agreed. Later that evening, we sat down. I told her I was very hurt to find out of the affair and that I wish she would have told me she was not happy. She did not say anything. So I continued with that. As far as I am concerned, the marriage is over. She just nodded her head. I then told her I have been to an attorney. This caught her by surprise by her look. I explained what the attorney said, that it would be best if we could come to some agreement what to do. Our largest asset is the house, and to sell it, we would take a huge loss. She just smiled and said, "I can prove that I have paid the mortgage, so the house is mine." I shook my head no. My attorney explained the house is a marital asset, both names on the mortgage. I then pulled out a couple binders. I have every receipt that I have spent filed by room on what has been spent. I started this just out of curiosity and just kept going as we finished rooms. I can prove I spent thousands of my money in refurbishing the house. She was caught off guard by the receipts. She has not been to an attorney. I propose that we live peacefully, together, finish the house. We can then set the B&B up. She could buy me out of the business at that time. She dug her heels in again. No, I need to leave. If not, she has plans to move Stevie in. This hurt like a bit ***. I got up and got a glass of water to collect my thoughts. When I came back to the table, I told her if I see him in the house or on the property, I would start disassembling everything that has been done. Every nail and every screw I put in, I would take out. Every light and plumbing fixture would be taken down. I said I would not destroy them because I own them. I would replace them with any old piece of salvage material I could find. I said, think about it. Consult with whoever is giving you dime store advice. Let me know. Yesterday she came to me. We had not talked in several days. She asked if we could talk again. She had talked with our kids. I had called each and told them what's going on. Our daughter suggested to her that we stay in the house to completion. Start the business as I suggested. Then maybe I could move out, but still own 50%. Mom could run the business, bringing in an employee or two to help run the place, do yard work, give Mom a day off. I told her I would think about it, but my stance on Steven will not change. So I have another appointment with attorney. The big issue is we probably will not be in business until 2023. The outside needs much work along with landscaping. Plus, we need to come up a room for one of us to live in. The room I am in is part of the rooms to rent. Update 2. See my profile for original post and first update. Sorry, I have not updated. I'm recovering from a stroke almost 4 months ago and am just now getting back whole. My wife and I were discussing how we would split our assets. Our lawyers said it would be best if we came to some consensus. As we were talking, the stroke hit. I was sitting 1 second, then hit the floor. My wife is an RN. Thank God she saw something was wrong. When she asked if I was all right, I hit the floor. She called 911 and told them I was having a stroke. I went to the hospital for a week, then to rehab. My wife had taken a leave to care for me when I got home. I don't think I would have recovered near as well without her. She went back to work in January when she felt I could manage somewhat by myself. Our kids stop over when she works her 12 HR shifts, though. I don't know if she is still seeing Stevie because she spent 2 months by my side. However, she has taken a couple 3-day holidays away. So I think that may still be going on. Right now, divorce talk has been pushed to the side. Thank you for those asking for updates and the many DMs asking where I was. I am on the mend. I have some issues walking, so going back to work is out of the question. I may have to come up with something else. Update 3. I hope it's the last one. Sorry I haven't updated. I know many have asked. First, I want to say how much I appreciated all the support, especially from those on PM. There were multiple chats that showed real concern for me and let me use them as a sounding board onto the update. I have filed for divorce. I was starting to waver. I think because of my health issue, I stopped seeing the whole issue. The STBXW was very kind and nurturing to me in recovery. Once I was back on my feet, taking care of myself, I started realizing things. STBXW took weekends away once or twice a month. The kids would visit to help out. I now realized she was going to Stevie's place or going away with him. The kids got clued in right away. My daughter has been all over STBSW. Their relationship is now nil. That is a shame. My son disapproves but has not cut ties. We discussed divorce, dividing assets. It will be amicable. Neither of us can buy the other out. We listed the place with a business broker. I guess that's what to call him. He found a company, think Verbo, Airbnb, to give us a great offer. So we will divorce and move when it is finalized in a month or two. The sale will go through then. My health is not all the way back and probably never will be. I have a great boss who is working with me as I grow into this new role as a project manager for him. Thanks for all the support. Next story, story 2. I have been with S for 5 years and married for 2. And in those 7 years, everything for me was great. When we first met, it was love at the first sight. I loved her more and more in these years. My friends even made fun of me for my changed character when I was with her. Before meeting her, I was usually a cold, thought, and very hard man. My character went from my experience in the army and due to my parents' character, and I have never been so vulnerable with anyone apart her. So in this 7 years, everything for me was perfect. I was doing a job that was paying me very well, I finally had some money, and I was extremely in love with the woman of my dreams. Thinking now I was smart enough to make a trust, where put all my money and properties and giving to my best friend and my sister the rule of executors. I did this because my best friend was divorced, and he must split all his money and properties with his ex-wife, when she never contributed to pay a single cent. So I did this to be protected from a possible, but at that time impossible, divorce, and for emergencies because at that time I wasn't financially stable, so I must had a security net. Then before the marriage, we both agreed to do a prenup, where the only condition was that if someone of us would cheat, he/she wouldn't had any type of alimony, in my country is legal. The thing is that when she proposed me this, I was a bit in shock, because I never thought for 1 second to cheat on her, or that she would cheat on me, so it went out of the blue, but I accepted it. The first year of marriage was perfect. We were wealthy thanks to my job that was paying very well. We're renting a very big and nice house. We're enjoying our life, doing amazing experiences, going to amazing places for vacations, and we went out to new people and friends. Unfortunately, the second year wasn't so good because I started to work with my company to sign a very big client with us. So I admit that I was using all my energies for my work, and I told her this, but she was okay because my work was our first and only resource of money since she wasn't having any intention to work, but just being a stay-home wife. Anyway, I knew that my work was getting difficult, and I was always tired after it. But I tried my best to make her happy and satisfied, unless the stressing period, about 6 months. In fact, many times I put aside my personal life to prioritize her over myself, just to not make her sad, feeling alone and without attention. My routine was getting up very early in the morning, gym, making breakfast for her, work, coming home and preparing her dinner, and then spending time with her instead of relaxing. I went like this for 6 months, and after the client finally signed with us, I booked a 2-month vacation in her favorite place, Paris, to release stress and tension. The vacation went very well because I thought that we became stronger and more in love with each other. But when we came back home, I noticed that she was changing. She became distant, cold, and always looking at the phone instead of talking with me like before. I tried to talk her about this many times, but her excuse was personal problems and stress, so I let it slide. This went for 6 months. One day I was having a very important meeting where the big boss was about to announce the risings, so I was nervous because finally my hard work and dedication were about to pay off with a big rise. In fact, I had a rise of 30% on my salary because of the sign with the big client. And after the meeting, I told my coworkers that I was about to take a couple days of vacations to celebrate the important news, and they all agreed. So that day I went home early to give the announce to my lovely wife, but when I parked my car, I heard very loud voices of someone who was doing sex coming from my house, but I thought that I heard wrong because my wife would be to shopping with her friend. Until while I was getting near to the door, I heard her voice, so I took a moment to tail out my phone and record the scene. When I entered, the end of the world happened. I caught her having sex with a random guy, and when I called her name, the shock on her face was just absolutely priceless. After I entered, and I recorded like 1 minute, the guy sneaked out of our house partially nude, and with clothes in his hands, leaving my wife covered with a cushion. I swear to God I wanted to destroy everything, but I just was in shock and didn't say anything. I went to my room to pack all my stuff, and she started angrily to accuse me of cheating, and that all this wasn't real, and that I was just dreaming. Thinking now what she was saying was just absurd and with zero sense. I took like 30 minutes to pack my stuff and drove away, and when I left that house, I just had a sense of relief and that all my anger and tension was getting away. I stayed in a hotel for some days while my phone was bombarded with calls and texts from her. I ignored everything and changed number. After a few more days, I contacted a lawyer and told him all the situation, and he said, "You are a smartass. I can guarantee that a part of having half of your money, she wouldn't get nothing else from you." So after a few months of no contact, I sent her the divorce papers. In those months of no contact, I heard that she found a job to barely maintain the house, and when she got my divorce papers, she went on a meeting with her lawyer and mine with a big smile on her face and said, "I did the right thing cheating on you. I will have all your money and I wouldn't work for the rest of my life." Me and my lawyer smiled at each other, and he put on the table the prenup agreement, and she immediately understood her mistake. She would only have half of my money and nothing else. Then S started to cry and begging me to forgive her, that it was just a little mistake, that she loves me and this kind of stuff. This scene went on for 20 minutes and finally she signed the papers. She realized that the money she would have were enough to pay 5 months of rent of our house and that she was fucked up. While I was going out of the place, she run behind me repeating all the stuff. It was a mistake. She loves me. I must forgive her and all this shit. Coming to nowadays, I met a new girl and we are dating since a few months. I'm happy. I have my work that pays me well, and my life is again happy. From what I heard, she stayed at our old house for some months, until the money were over, and now she is living in a small apartment near her new job. Of course, she tried again to contact me, but I never answered her texts and calls because I don't feel anything for her, but just indifference. I still thank my best friend for his advice of the trust, ahaha. Next story, story 3. It's about 2 years for me, 40M, from DD with my cheating ex. 39F. We were high school sweethearts at the end of her senior year. I had just graduated and met her working in a video store in a small suburb. We were close friends for about 6 months, and eventually it led to me getting up the courage to plant a kiss, and the rest, as they say, is history. Unfortunately, as this tale has found its way to the sub, we all know it didn't end well. I had never really had friends who cheated, never heard anyone talk about it, and I had no idea the amount of trauma that was on the way. It was a random occurrence that I had even found out. My folks were visiting and my ex took off to go to a coworker's wedding in another state. She had told me about the event about 2 weeks prior. My ex had a few friends that weren't mutual, nothing out of the ordinary, but there I was watching a movie with the folks and realized I misplaced my phone during the day. I was holding my iPad and browsing during the flick and tepidly shifted to the Find My iPhone feature. Married for 10 years, we had a lot of accounts tied together, and iTunes was one of them. Instead of my phone being first on the list, it was hers. Instead of being out of state, she was at a local hotel about an hour away that doubles as a popular brewery. They hold weddings there all the time, and I was sure that was it. I'd find her there with her coworkers. Around 8 p.m., I made it out to the hotel and couldn't find her anywhere. Looking for 2 hours, I narrowed the GPS to a certain wing. She wasn't in the restaurant, so I did my best Eddie Murphy impression. That's what I call it when you con your way into some where you shouldn't be or get free stuff, 'cause Eddie was a master of that in all his early movies. I head to the front desk and say, "Gee, my sister was at that wedding earlier, and I'm afraid some guy took advantage of her 'cause she's drunk. Can you give me the room number?" After slight hesitation and asking me to provide a phone number, They pointed me to the room. My heart raced as I turned a couple corners now, knowing what I was going to find. I knocked on the door and tried to channel Eddie again. "Room service?" I mentioned in the most pleasant tone I could muster while hiding my anger and rage. A male answered that I must have the wrong room. Immediately my cover was blown. "I think I have the right ying room. How about you open up so we can have a conversation?" My cheating spouse starts texting me. Finally found out, the jig is up. She says she wants to talk in the morning and that she refuses to come out of the room. "Oh, okay. Stay the rest of the night with your lover." Got it. I linger for about an hour just to see if they'll come out. At this place, the restrooms are in the hallways European style, but neither person emerged, and I gave up. I went and took photos of her car for some kind of proof and went home heartbroken to a sleepless night. She asked me to meet her in a public park where she knew there'd be people. She actually said that. "Oh, okay, never ever laid a finger on you or raised my voice at you in 20 years, but now domestic violence is a concern." Making her wait, I get to the park a few minutes late and realize that my expectations are still off. Even though I got the coldest shoulder the night before, I was ready to make this work, to fix it. I came with a forgiving heart expecting remorse. Surely my wife of 11 years wouldn't gaslight our whole existence. She's in tears, says she's sorry. Looks like the whole time she's just sorry she was caught. Told her how I found out and she smirked at it. We discussed her coming home, and I was both appalled and mesmerized to hear, "I just can't go back to the way things were. I'm so trapped there." 3. Oh, okay. So she's the victim, right? She spent 3 days in a hotel downtown, presumably just spending time with her lover, trying to decide if she should come back home. The AP was in a relationship too, has a 12-year-old son, and maybe that baggage was too much for her. She came home, completely listless for a week, would hardly speak to me, demanded we sleep in separate bedrooms, claims she'll work on this but just needs space after all she's been through. She's done seeing the AP. We do the right thing and start marital counseling. Session 1. No further details come up. I ask for transparency, and I've been going nuts researching affairs on the internet. She just maintains she can't go back to the way things were, but in no way can verbalize why our life wasn't happy or fulfilling enough and what is meant by her statement. Luckily for me, the therapist spots something and poignantly asks, "You've ended the affair, right?" Shock and awe. She hadn't. "Well, I was going to call him and let him know, but I haven't yet." As I began the slow troll into the trickle truth, she confessed somewhat that she'd been with for at least 1 year prior. It was unbeknownst to me utterly and completely. Still happy in the bedroom, and she manipulated me with gifts. At one point, she gave me a watch that was engraved on the underside, "Loving you more every second." She'd remember to send me texts and call when out of town on business affair, frolicking. Eventually, I'm just a ball of tears and weighing my options of going to jail, just getting out of this crap right now, or sticking in the marriage I am so committed to. I love this woman with every ounce of my being. Session 2. Transparency is abysmal. In fact, my wife has turned off location sharing on all devices and changed all her passwords to everything. Oh, okay, how dare I ask for such a thing when she's so damaged and in mourning. Cheating ex asks for an open relationship, and that'll fix everything. I'm appalled and desperate and just in a terrible mental state, and shamefully I agree. I think I secretly know that it's over, but don't know how to get my physical self to agree. The therapist corners her saying she needs to break it off with the AP. Still no word on that, and that polyamory might not be healthy at this point in our relationship. My ex vows never to go back to therapy because that lady was mean to her. Oh, okay, starting to see a pattern here. I cry every night deep in terrible sobs. This woman who loved me and shared the utmost intimacy, all of the sudden doesn't want anything to do with me. We pass each other around the house like ghosts of our former selves. I yell and scream at the world randomly from time to time. It's the darkest period I can recall in my life. We have sex. I think it's makeup sex. But when we're done, she says she just needed to get off, and that we never really loved each other. Ouch! Oh, okay, here I thought we had a great relationship that never lost its spark. We were intimate in the bedroom too, 4 times a week always. I make a move. Maybe it's a mistake. I download Tinder and go on a couple dates. I actually tell the people I'm married and probably getting a divorce. I was super transparent before meeting up with these people. One told me if I finalized the divorce to give her a call because I'm a great guy. The other took me home to her bed. I wished I would have waited, simply because this gave my ex firepower and mild justification for the affair. We'll get to that in a brief moment. I'm almost done with the crazy train. The same weekend she goes on an overt camping trip with her AP, tells me about it in the name of transparency. Meanwhile, doesn't validate anything else I'm asking about. It was this setup that made me continue to feel worthless and why I slept with the Tinder fling. By Monday, I've had enough. Astonishingly, I'm still willing to work through it and repair the marriage that isn't there. WS goes on a business trip, and at this point, I really have no idea what's going on. There's absolutely zero trust. I call her and demand, "You leave this man. You commit to loving me. You rebuild this trust immediately, or I'm leaving before you get home." She responded that she just wasn't sure she could do all of those things. It is no longer a marriage, but a disaster that needs a cleanup crew. While she's away, I pack all my necessary belongings, grab the dog, and move in with some friends. She really didn't think I'd do it. She called me sobbing that night. Why had I moved my stuff out? Total trip to crazy town. I told her she'd better act soon, that after nearly 2 months of dealing with this, she needed to make a decision. I could no longer live with her as part of this situation, and that time is expiring shortly. I told her more than likely in 2 months or less, I'd probably be firmly planted in the divorce camp, that she'd done nothing to work toward my side, and done nothing but make abusive comments with her selfishness and endless need to be validated by men. She responded to this by telling me it was my fault for finding out about the affair. In her words, she wasn't looking for a way out, but would have played the good housewife role for the rest of our lives if I just wouldn't have found out. I was sickened and almost driven mad by what I heard on the phone. Who was this person I thought I knew? Who I shared my life with? Who valued me so little that I was a throwaway object, or at most only there to placate her wants and desires? She backpedaled and exclaimed, "This could be a good thing. We'll grow into something new, and we'll go on dates together and be excited to see each other again. If it's meant to be, then we'll get back together." Seriously, WTF? Even in this state, I knew relationships are something you work at, and that love is a practice, and I was getting none of that from this horrific shell of a human being. About a week later, I tried meeting up with her. She said she wanted to discuss the divorce. It really just ended up being her wanting to flirt with me and then control my advances. She'd say how much she cared about me, but if I tried to touch her leg, she'd say she wasn't ready for that yet. Since I had moved out, she insanely also moved out and was paying double rent by getting a nice city apartment just a couple blocks from the bar we happened to be at. When I offered to walk her home, she scoffed and said she'd be fine, and also wasn't ready for me to see her new place. Oh, okay, so been your husband nearly 11 years, together for 20, and now I can't touch your leg or walk you home. Alone with the dog, in my new rented room at my friend's, I bit the pillow hard and sobbed harder that night than ever in my life. It wasn't wants or desires this time, but I knew it was over, truly over. I knew the woman I loved was gone. Maybe the rose-tinted glasses were lifted, but I knew it would be in my best interest to never interact with this person again and cut them out of my life. I was devastated because I truly and deeply gave my love to this person and thought all these years it had been reciprocated. As my therapist and many on here have told me, I was the lobster in a pot. I didn't see the red flags when she hated on my friends or told me her friends hated me. I didn't see the red flags when she'd buy me close and parade me like a trophy. Oh, okay, well, I'm kind of fit and handsome. I didn't see the red flags when she started traveling endlessly for work, nor did I see them when I asked her how she really felt and if there was anything that could make our relationship better. Part of it is the eyes of love, and part of it was her nasty manipulation that I couldn't see until now. Nothing was ever enough for her. Not my job, not our house we owned, not the work I did on the house. It was all a ruse that fit perfectly with my codependency. I wanted to fix things and to be good enough, and she was very capable at causing enough disaster and dangling enough carrots to keep me engaged. I wasn't looking to have love reciprocated, but to love her so much it was enough for both of us. With my head clear, I resolved that the divorce was going to happen, and with her crazy attitude, it meant I was filing all the paperwork. I wish I could end this mega rant here, but you've only seen the awakening this far. The claws are about to come out. We hadn't spoken in 3 weeks, and I felt like I was making the right decisions in my life. I'm surrounded by friends, moving forward and gaining some clarity. I've realized the trap that I was in and made a firm decision to not get back together. Asterisk ring. Asterisk ring. Asterisk. Oh, who could that be? It's my WS. We were supposed to meet for coffee to discuss the divorce and entangling paperwork. She tells me she can't make it at the designated time, but to text her 2 hours later and we can meet up. Fine. I follow suit, jumping through more hoops, and upon texting she tells me she's up at the nearby family mountain cabin and that I should come up for the week and stay with her. Oh, okay. I'll just cast aside all my integrity and small amount of self-respect I just discovered to jump back in the sack. Hell no, we won't go. I declined the invitation after stating the importance of working through the divorce process. She gets flustered and somehow kind of angry that I'm not willing to drop everything in my life and come running up to the cabin. I ask her what about the AP, and her response is he broke up with her as soon as I was out of the picture. Karma is fickle creature sometimes, I guess. We finally meet for coffee, and I bring all the documents. Gushing comments pour out from her about how good I look and how well I seem to be doing. Nope, I'm freaking devastated, and this isn't a game to me, lady. What's up? We cover the details about splitting up the house, of which she says she's entitled to more than half. I'm not to touch her 401k, and as a compromise, I get to keep my business untouched, that I worked my tail off on building for 10 years. I'm going to stay on her healthcare for the duration of the divorce, and we'll tidy this situation up as fast as possible. As I turn to make my exit, she pursues and follows me to my car, murmuring about things. Spinning on my heel, I ask if she has anything to say for herself. Frantically, I'm searching for remorse, perhaps a splinter of a shred of the person I thought loved me. It spouts out in a phrase more akin to a question than an answer. I'm sorry. For what? I retort. I'm sorry for what I did. The words trailed off as if released by the smallest church mouse in Zootopia. It was a benign effort that reeked not of remorse in action, but shell shock from being caught. In a way, it was helpful. It let me know that my assumptions were now correct, and that I knew where I stood. She wasn't sad because of anything she did, only that she had lost me as an asset with her cover blown, and now wanted this man back in her life, who at one time would do absolutely anything for her. It was the only apology I would ever receive. She asked me what our narrative is going to be, and I paused, trying to discern the question. Yeah, like, what are we going to tell people? What are we going to say happened? That maybe we just mutually decided to see other people or something. What's our story? Oh, okay, holy shit. Yeah, our story. Well, you can say whatever you want, but I'm absolutely going to tell the truth to anyone who will listen. That is what happened. You broke my heart, you stepped out on marriage, and now you want your cake. I've had enough, and I don't need to create a story to feel better about myself. Okay, bye. I turn and walk away, and as soon as I cross the street, a train comes, ending our conversation. I immediately get in my car and text all her family about the end of the marriage and why I happened.